Hey guys, it's time for another Kellerman vlog. If you follow my channel, you know what that is. In case you don't, I reread the murder mysteries by author Jonathan Kellerman, and I talk about them. My hope is to discuss them with other people that have read them enough to want to discuss them. There's certain questions that I have after reading, certain things I like, certain things I don't like, certain pet peeves, certain things I'd like to ask the author given the chance. And so instead, I'm having those discussions with you. Today's book is Mystery. And again, this is for people that have read the book. But just in case you haven't, be warned there are spoilers, but I'll give you a brief synopsis. So our main characters are psychologist Alex Delaware and detective Milo Sturgis of the LAPD. And he gets a call for a murdered young woman. And it just so happens that coincidentally, Alex and his girlfriend saw her at a bar, like an upscale hotel bar, the night before. So they had something to go on in terms of finding her identity and who she was and who she was with. Ultimately, it turns out that she was the mistress of a wealthy retired guy who was married and has two sons who are also married. And so they suspect that it was somebody in the family, and it's basically trying to unearth the family secrets and figure out who killed her and why. So that's the best synopsis I can give without giving anything away. So here's time for my notes. So I haven't figured out what to call this era of Kellerman yet, but this is the era where Milo has a working relationship with the Irish chief. And whatever we're calling this era, this is a solid example of it. Seems like a lot of the better books of this era start with having, like, the first step is identifying the victim. Because in some books, they already know who the victim is. They have an ID on them, or they're a famous person, or whatever. But the ones where they have to work to identify the victim, seems like those books work out better because that allows for some pacing in terms of developing the mystery. I also really like that Kellerman brought back Gretchen Stengel from Flesh and Blood and fleshed out, pun not intended, fleshed out her character. So she's a primary character in this book. She was very much a minor character the last time we saw her. Okay, so these are my notes. So who is Bite? Early in the book, Robin, Alex's girlfriend, who is a luthier and instrument tech, has to deliver a mandolin to somebody named Bite. And that's the only reference to this Bite in this book. And I'm wondering, are we supposed to know who that is from other books? Because otherwise, I don't know who it is. I Googled Bite musician, nothing came up. So, there's literally no context for that. Okay, in this book, Gretchen has two sisters and Bunny is the middle child. I believe, and actually I can go back and look at my notes for Flesh and Blood. Because I believe in Flesh and Blood she had brothers and sisters. And Gretchen was the middle child. Yes, I'm going back to my notes for Flesh and Blood. In this book, Gretchen has an older brother and a younger sister. And so that is a continuity error, I believe. Okay. I don't like continuity errors. They really mess with my OCD. So, anyhow, again, I would ask Kellerman, maybe it's not a continuity error, maybe there's more to it that we just don't know, but that's sure what it appears to be. Okay, Milo says in this book, bulk is my secret weapon, it makes lunch tax deductible. And I've been waiting for an excuse to use that line, and I have not had an excuse to use that line yet, but one day I will, and I look forward to that day. Is this the first book where we meet Detective Two Moons? I know that he comes up in multiple books, but I can't remember if we've seen him before or not. Next time I reread these, I'm going to make a timeline. I'm going to name all the auxiliary characters, and we're going to have a timeline of where they appear. Olas Sandwich sounds great, although I'm not really used to sandwiches with bell peppers on them. But every time that's described, it makes me hungry. I love a good sandwich. Okay, so my biggest pet peeve with this book. In this book, Kellerman uses one of my least favorite, least believable plot devices, which is to send Alex in, sometimes with a wire, in a good suit and have him act like a con. It always works, and I have trouble suspending disbelief for that. Is Alex really that good of an actor? Are the bad guys always that gullible? I think the first time we saw this was in the Woody Swope book. I was going to say Woody Harrelson. I can't remember what that was called. It's one of the really early Blood Test, I think. I think that was Blood Test. Was that the Cassie Jones one? I mix up those two because they're child in the hospital, both of them. But I think Blood Test was the Woody Swope one, and Devil's Waltz was Cassie. So yeah, I don't like that. I feel like that's a real cheap ending to the book. Like it's Kellerman wrote himself into a corner, and it's a way to get out of that corner. I didn't mind it so much in the Woody Swope book. I keep blanking on the name, but here it really bothers me. It really just doesn't seem that believable. Okay, those are my only notes for this book. Surprisingly few notes. The next up is Victims, which is a book that I have strong feelings about. I really like following the mystery along the way, and then at the end, I don't like it as much. It's just kind of like this one. So we'll talk about that one when I finish reading it. In the meantime, please stick with me. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff.